Members, greetings. I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and when I'm not seeing white horses that make me kill, I guess, I don't know, I'm here at the Wolfula reviewing movies. October is behind us now. You didn't think I'd subject you to 2 Rob Zombie films before Halloween, did you? I'm not a fucking monster. But whether you like it or not, I'm back in November to finish what I started as I revisit Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, released in 2009. By the way, if you're a Canadian or Italian viewer who couldn't watch my review of the Halloween remake, click this card to watch it now, available in your country. Now, I gave some people the wrong idea in the last vid, making it seem like I thought Rob Zombie didn't actually like the original Halloween. Clearly, Zombie liked Halloween and respected it as a classic horror film. My feeling is just that he wasn't a huge fan of Halloween in the same way he loves Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I feel like he did the Halloween remake because, even though he was already famous as a musician, before the Halloween remake, he wasn't really famous for being a horror filmmaker. So I think he saw a Halloween remake as an opportunity to reach a more mainstream audience who might not have even listened to his music before, who would now know Rob Zombie as a horror director. I think with Rob Zombie's Monsters film, it'll feel a lot more like a hardcore fan made it compared to his Halloween films. Anyway, Rob Zombie's Halloween remake may have been polarizing to fans of the original film, but it was a box office success. Made for $15 million, it made $80 million in return, making it, unadjusted for inflation, the most financially successful Halloween film at the time, before Halloween 2018 and Kills eventually beat it. And Rob Zombie's Halloween didn't even have Busta Rhymes in it.
Trick or treat, motherfucker!
Despite making what will likely be his most financially successful movie ever, Rob Zombie stated while filming his Halloween remake that he would not return for a sequel, but hey, he also once said that remaking horror movies is a bad idea, so he's a bit of a flip-flopper. Harvey Weinstein's rapey eyes had dollar signs over them, baby, and he saw profit to be made in a sequel regardless of Zombie's involvement. So after spending a year sleeping on it, Rob Zombie decided to return to make the sequel to his Halloween remake. Series producer Malika Akkad gave Zombie permission to do whatever he wanted with the sequel, a change from his father's strict traditionalism while handling the Halloween series, though, then again, Moustapha Akkad did sign off on a Halloween film with a druid incest cult, but whatever. Despite Malika Akkad giving Rob Zombie full permission to go wild, the Weinsteins insistently pushed Zombie to give them a sequel that ultimately followed the conventions of the series, and they didn't trust his vision for the sequel, despite him already delivering them a huge hit. So Rob Zombie pretty much just ignored the Weinsteins' wishes while making Halloween 2. Respectable. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 experienced production difficulties switching shooting locations to Georgia instead of California like in the remake. The movie entered production with an unfinalized script. Many of the scenes in the final film were completely improvised by Rob Zombie, who came up with a lot of scenarios on the fly day of shoot using the cast, crew, and locations at his disposal. Halloween 2 suffered from having a kind of incompetent, inexperienced production crew in Georgia, whose film industry was only just starting to emerge as one of the major hubs of movie making thanks to its generous tax incentives. The crew struggled to realize many of Halloween 2's set pieces, and Georgia residents were hostile towards the production, often interfering. While shooting the movie, approximately 20 hours of the film's footage was accidentally destroyed, so several scenes needed to be reshot completely. Despite the cheaper production too, though, Halloween 2's budget also suffered from a lot of cutbacks, and the film ultimately ran over schedule. To finish the film, Zombie had to secretly shoot an extra day. Despite these production setbacks, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 went on to be considered a classic, a highlight of the franchise acclaimed by both fans and critics, with absolutely no polarizing or controversial reputation. Ha! Got you there for a second, didn't I? Let's begin my review of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. May God have mercy on us all. Halloween 2 begins with a quote from the Subconscious Psychosis of Dreams, describing a white horse, a psychological archetype that exists within the subconscious mind that supposedly drives people to perform destructive acts. Rob Zombie's getting highbrow on us. Except, well, there is no book called The Subconscious Psychosis of Dreams, and this description of what a white horse symbolizes is equally bullshit, made up by Rob Zombie to artificially add depth. You can't make up academic quotes to try to give the visual and narrative themes in your film credibility. Instead, you should do actual research if you want to tell a story that has genuine psychological underpinnings.
Tells me you're a girl who likes white horses.
The opening scene of the film is a prologue that tries to drive the significance of the White Horse home for the viewers who don't know how to read. Before she ate a bullet in the remake, Rob Zombie's wife visits her son Michael at Smith's Grove Sanitarium, played by a totally different actor.
Wish I could take you home, honey. I miss you there. Miss you too.
They brought back Dave Fairch briefly, but ended up recasting because Fairch was too old.
Do you like your present? Yeah.
Sherry visits her son during Christmas and gives him a White Horse statue, even though Michael asked for a Sega Genesis. God, she is the worst mother ever. How do you get it this wrong? No wonder Michael started killing people.
What? What does it remind you of? Just a dream that I had last night. You were dressed in all white with this big white horse.
Anyway, the opening is far from the end of the White Horse imagery in the film, and I'll explain the true meaning of it, or lack thereof, later.
Whenever you look at the horse, you can think of Mommy, okay?
For now, though, the film skips ahead 15 years, and, much like the original Halloween 2, it picks up not too long after the events of the preceding film, with Laurie shell-shocked after her confrontation with Michael Myers, shooting him at point-blank range in the fucking head. But, spoilers, Michael survived that without any explanation. I mean, you could at least say that Laurie actually shot a paramedic that Michael switched clothes with, who for no reason tackled Laurie off a balcony. Makes about as much sense as any of the other shit in this movie.
I killed him. It's okay. I killed him.
Much like the original Halloween 2, this film begins with Laurie being admitted to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, and while the original Halloween 2's hospital scenes were like the Alan Alda Wayne Rogers mash, this one is more like Donald Sutherland Elliot Gould mash. Alright, let's move on from this surgery footage already, after 5 more seconds of it. Alright, well, like I said earlier, Michael is, of course, still alive, even though he's been hauled into a coroner's van, and how he escapes his situation is somehow even more outlandish and uncomfortable than his escape in the remake's director's cut.
You gotta look at the naked chick.
One of the dudes, played by Richard Brake, delivering Michael to the coroner, is revealed to be a burgeoning necrophile with an urge to have sex with Laurie's friend Linda's corpse.
Heard a story about a couple of meat wagon boys fucking corpses over in Essex. I ain't never had the urge till tonight.
I can't help but feel like this is Rob Zombie trying to occupy the minds of the people with the unenviable job of transporting corpses and thinking, hey, some of them might want to fuck the dead bodies, you know, just to pass the time.
Still look good to me. Nice old titties are hanging out. I got wood just zip-locking her up.
Anyway, the van crashes into a wandering cow.
What? Cow!
And it annihilates the van. Savage as fuck.
What? Cow!
It's like a scene straight out of a Chris Farley film, if it was shot by Rob Zombie.
It's alive!
This is how Michael Myers escapes. It always pisses me off when Michael gets outside help to escape or do anything else, and this easily takes the cake of the most insultingly ludicrous ways for this to happen. Speaking of ludicrous ideas, well, I'll talk later about why Sherry Moon Zombie is cosplaying as Galadriel from Lord of the Rings with a horse at her side. It's dumb, though. Back at the hospital, Laurie wakes up to a moody blues song, and like anyone in her situation, she presumably gets up to turn that shit off. On the way to retrieve the remote, she passes by Octavia Spencer and Stretch from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, having a conversation, which is a normal thing to see in any hospital.
I said, girl, if you think I'm letting you handle Thanksgiving, then I'm ordering Chinese. Octavia, it's a pleasure that you're embracing life this way.
Oh yeah, Octavia Spencer's character name in this movie is literally Octavia.
Yapping dog that peed all over my new couch.
This was just a couple years before she won an Academy Award. It's just so bizarre seeing her when she was still playing minor roles, helping Scout Taylor-Compton pretend to look like she can't walk, and when Spencer leaves to be in some other movie, Laurie realizes she could really use some Oscar-winning assistance.
Hello?
Honestly, she should have won an Oscar earlier for this scene. Octavia Spencer ends up in Michael's sights because he was not a big fan of that remake of The Witches. I mean, why remake a classic movie? It just makes no sense. For a little bit of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, it feels like a condensed remake of the original Halloween 2, just with a lot more corpses. I mean, a lot more corpses. So many corpses that I think even Richard Brake would have trouble fucking all of them.
I ain't never had the urge till tonight.
Laurie manages to flee into the parking lot, but instead of finding a concussed Jimmy, she finds the guy who played Tom from Office Space, who failed to try to commit suicide in his car and ended up getting into a car crash immediately after. That part was so fucking funny.
It's going to be all right. I work here. My name is Buddy.
Well, anyway, Buddy the Night Watchman seems like a really nice guy, and if you're a nice person in a Rob Zombie movie, it's a fucking death sentence. Oh God, no! Not Buddy! He felt like a buddy to me! Thankfully, as Michael enters the booth prepared to give Laurie the Scatman Crothers special, she awakens from her nightmare, which means Buddy the Night Watchman is still alive in this timeline. Oh, thank God. So wait, Michael can attack people in their dreams now? How derivative. It's really confusing and insulting to open a film with a 25-minute dream sequence, but not all of the first quarter of the film was actually a dream. The dream actually begins after Michael meets his mom and that horse, so it was actually only a 14-minute dream sequence. A huge difference.
He's dead.
Halloween 2 is a confusing, weird movie. That's part of its charm for some people, but for me, it's not really the fun, compelling version of confusing and weird that David Lynch does. It's more the frustrating kind. In essence, though, Halloween 2 is a Laurie Strode movie compared to Rob Zombie's first Halloween film, which was a Michael Myers movie. Halloween 2 mostly just tackles Laurie's attempts to cope with the trauma of her encounter with Michael Myers. She's now the headmistress of a private boarding school, and she's been preparing for Michael's return. No, wait, those are better movies. Well, this Laurie has become a bit of a burnout, haunted by her past and the loss of her parents. Why does her bedroom look like an old subway station? Laurie now lives with Sheriff Brackett and his daughter Annie, played by Danielle Harris, who also survived Michael. And yeah, Brad Dourif gets more screen time in this movie compared to the remake, because Dourif grew his hair out. If you're a male actor, Rob Zombie won't even make eye contact with you if your hair isn't shoulder length.
I think I'm gonna get me one of them sticky buns on the way in.
Oh, that's great.
Laurie also regularly visits a therapist played by the late Margot Kidder of R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour fame.
I mean, it's Halloween, and Halloween is a big trigger point for you, isn't it?
Now, the main difference between the theatrical cut of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 and the unrated director's cut, besides the ending, is in how Laurie Strode is depicted. In the theatrical cut, it's been a year since Laurie encountered Michael. She's taken things one day at a time.
One day at a time, babe.
One day at a time.
She has her moments struggling with grief, but she's ultimately pushing through it working at a coffee shop now, owned by a dirty hippie.
This country has been under the military-industrial complexes. Right on, sister.
But as Halloween approaches, Laurie unravels and something happens that finally makes her snap.
One fucking day at a time.
In the unrated version, it's been 2 years since Laurie encountered Michael. From their first scene together, Laurie's lashing out at Annie.
You don't fucking care.
Right. I don't fucking care.
She's lashing out at her therapist.
Fuck you and fuck this!
She's made new friends just to try to distance herself from Annie.
Is this how your new work friends roll?
Maybe. Jealous?
Laurie's addicted to her prescription meds. When she runs out of those, she turns to getting boozed up to help her cope.
Oh, my prescription!
I'm so sorry you're going through this.
Laurie feels guilty for her parents and Linda's death. With Annie's survival, she sees her friend as a living reminder of the Halloween night 2 years ago.
She's a constant reminder.
And Laurie's guilt transforms into an almost homicidal anger towards Annie.
And I get this 0 to 100 rage, and I just want to go up to her, and I just...
The director's cut of Halloween 2 has a far bleaker tone overall, where Laurie has completely given up on herself. She treats her therapist with jaded cynicism.
I would be fucking concerned at $100 an hour.
I'm really concerned right now.
No.
And can't live with herself or her grief. In some ways, it depicts trauma and loss in a more painful, realistic light than other Halloween films.
Get the fuck out of my room!
But at the same time, it treats it all as if there is no hope once something terrible has happened to you.
I'm not strong enough, and I'm tired of pretending that I am!
It's clear that Rob Zombie wanted to tell a tragic story with his Halloween movies, but what happened in the remake was tragic enough.
You are so much stronger than you think you are.
I just don't know who would want to actually see the survivors sinking further and further into self-destruction in the aftermath. It just feels like a serious bummer thinking of these Rob Zombie films as a girl who was born into a shitty life, then things got better through tragedy, and then seeing her become broken as a teenage girl. Just a grim saga.
According to my notes, you should have a lot of medication.
I don't. I'm out.
Halloween 2 also deals with how Dr. Loomis has fared after his previous encounter with Michael Myers. Yeah, Loomis survived having his head seemingly crushed pretty much unscathed. He just has a really douchey-looking mustache now, but that's not the only thing douchey about him.
Well, I'm not going in there until you go get me a cup of PG Tips with a splash of milk, and I want it sizzling hot.
Rob Zombie has doubled down on Loomis being a shrewd capitalist by writing another book, making money from the latest murders his former patient Michael has been responsible for.
I'm selling the sizzle, not the steak.
Loomis's ambitions were more nuanced in the remake. It was kept ambiguous whether or not Loomis was just cashing in with his book, or if he really did just want to warn the world of people like Michael, while also moving on with his life.
Michael, I have to move on.
In the remake, he had an arc where he seemed to care about his patient and had guilt, ultimately accepting responsibility as the final father figure in Michael's life that failed him.
Michael, it's my fault. I failed you.
With Loomis sacrificing himself.
Do I personally feel responsible, ma'am? No, I do not.
In Halloween 2, Loomis's whole arc was fucking meaningless. Any shred of Donald Pleasance's legacy left over is set aside.
This is old Loomis. This is new.
He's just a total snobbish prick that's gone full Hollywood, seeking fame and fortune.
When I want your opinion, I'll beat it out of you.
Writing a sensationalized telling of Michael's recent slayings, he's an asshole to everyone he encounters, especially his secretary on the book tour.
Here, now take that and go sit in the car. Go on, get your ass in there.
It's implied that Loomis's book about Michael has inspired warped individuals to identify with the killer.
Chet, the bringer of death.
Okay.
That's Chet with 2 T's.
But we all know books don't turn people into killers, video games do.
You're the man, you're the man. You're the man!
Loomis accepts no responsibility for the killings that happened. He isn't, but he treats them as if they were imaginary fiction or just spicy tabloid gossip.
Your monster killed her.
Wait. No.
He butchered her.
Until somebody who was actually impacted by the deaths confront him face to face.
You son of a bitch! I'm gonna kill you, Loomis!
Whoa, calm down, buddy. You still got sperm. You can make another daughter. The lowest point of Loomis in Halloween 2, though, is when he humiliates himself on, I guess, an Illinois talk show with the shittiest looking set I have ever seen. Hosted by that asshole Chris Hardwick with Weird Al Yankovic as a guest.
Mr. Weird. All right, Al's.
What is this, an episode of Comedy Bang Bang?
Are we talking about the Austin Powers Mike Myers, or is this...
Before Rob Zombie was finished with the Halloween franchise, he just had to make a fucking Mike Myers reference said by Weird Al Yankovic. Just the most cringiest thing to sit through imaginable. Far scarier than any of the other shit in the movie.
Snap! You got snapped on by Weird Al?
I love Weird Al, but somehow Rob Zombie figured out how to make me hate even this guy. The Loomis of Halloween 2 doesn't feel consistent with who he was in the previous film. It feels like a forced caricature of who he was in the previous film.
Michael Myers is fucking dead! D-E-A-D!
The Loomis plotline also just feels really disconnected from the rest of the narrative until the end. This might have been due to necessity, though. Rob Zombie wasn't sure if he'd be able to get Malcolm McDowell until the last second when they were able to close the deal, so his part seems to have been written in such a way where he could easily be cut out. But come on, it's Malcolm McDowell. He'll say yes to anything. You could offer Malcolm McDowell a $20 Subway gift card and he'd appear in your movie. You could offer Malcolm McDowell a handful of Chuck E. Cheese tokens and he would appear in your movie. You could offer Malcolm McDowell half a roll of Mentos and he'd appear in your movie. The idea that he possibly wouldn't have reprised his role as Loomis if asked is just laughable to me. But this movie really didn't need Loomis at all. He should have just been killed off, just had a cameo, or he should have been handled totally differently.
God, it's business, woman!
Loomis's only role in the story before the finale is to reveal to Laurie that Michael Myers is her brother indirectly, and that she was adopted. It's a heartbreaking moment that isn't treated with much weight or significance leading up to it. There isn't that sense that it's still a secret. The audience knows about it, but there's nothing in the film that reminds you that Laurie doesn't know it until she finds out later.
Fuck!
I feel it was a missed opportunity not having Loomis be Laurie's therapist, where you play off his guilt and drive home that he knows this secret about Laurie that Brackett confided in him. Create more conflict between Loomis and Brackett with the reveal of Laurie's relation to Michael treated as a ticking time bomb, and where Brackett could be suspecting Loomis just wants to get another book with Laurie as the subject. It would keep Loomis as this nuanced character you aren't sure you can trust. Instead, Loomis is just a one-dimensional piece of shit the whole movie until he decides to try to do the right thing last second. It's not interesting, it's a fucking boring take on the character. I can't say, though, that the take on Michael's character is boring. In fact, it's interesting in the worst ways possible. Michael, as played by the hulking Tyler Mane, is essentially depicted as a wandering vagrant who looks like Hagrid going through some tough times during the recession. A bearded version of the shape who seems to collect jackets. Michael's face is often shown unmasked, even in broad daylight. He even rarely wears his mask, which is in tatters anyway. I didn't really talk about Tyler Mane's performance as Michael in the remake, but it's mostly because he wasn't in it that much, and it barely felt like he got to bring anything to his performance as Michael. It felt like he wasn't asked to do anything more than just be tall. In the sequel, Mane has even more of a thankless job. He spends most of the film just walking, looking pissed off while doing it. He's a silent character who barely gets screen time and has no distinct body language or presence like the classic incarnation of Michael Myers.
And I want to play that Frankenstein thing with the sleeves are a little short and stuff, so his arms look too long. This sort of like one-piece thing, but with a quilted vest and some kind of quilted knees.
Rob Zombie, during the making of the remake, said he wanted Michael to be this lumbering Frankenstein-like monster who wears rags, and he definitely got to realize this idea in the sequel, and it feels less like Leatherface this time around and more like Jason Voorhees, a character Rob Zombie hates. This take on Michael is also like Jason Voorhees in motivation. It's revealed that Michael is compelled to kill by visions of his mother clad in all white, once accompanied by a white horse. Why a white horse? There isn't really a deep meaning to the horse imagery. Rob Zombie was going home after a day of shooting and saw a white horse in a field at night, and thought it looked absurd, and integrated it into the film as a visual. When Laurie sees a white horse in Margot Kidder's inkblot,
White horse?
There's no explanation given then of what it means.
Tells me you're a girl who likes white horses.
It wasn't until post-production that Rob Zombie tried to give the white horse meaning with the opening text, so it didn't just seem like a non sequitur. It can be said that the white horse, like a lot of things in the film, is like a Rorschach test. It's open to interpretation, so I choose to interpret it as a stupid idea. Like Rob Zombie wanting Michael Myers to talk in this film to the visions of his mother without having Michael actually talking, so he sees this kid version of himself say all the things he thinks.
I love you, Mama.
Like Jason Voorhees, this Michael Myers is a child trapped in a murderous man's body who is guided in his actions by his dead mother. Michael's motivation is explicitly given by his mother.
Only a river of blood can bring us back together.
If he kills enough people by Halloween, the Myers family will be reunited along with Boo, whether she likes it or not. Laurie herself sees the same visions Michael sees. Her dreams seem to reveal that she's suffering from the same homicidal delusions that her brother experiences, and that her trauma has exacerbated this, but it also just feels like an excuse for Rob Zombie to throw some cool music video imagery into a movie he didn't want to fucking make. At least have some fun where you can get it. On the road to Laurie, Michael kills Detective Flash from Batman Begins through truck antler impalement. That's a new sentence. Michael slices another guy's eyes out very thoroughly. Keep slicing, Michael. He still has a little bit of eye juice left. Michael even stabs the farmer's daughter, and not in the usual sexy kind of way, repeatedly thrusting into her. Rob Zombie realized in his sequel something from the original Halloween he forgot to explicitly show in his remake. Michael eating a dog. Uncooked dog flesh, making me hungry. To try to pad out the body count more while making it sort of a personal vendetta, Michael revisits his mother's old work, the Rabbit and Red Lounge. And I have some kinda sad trivia. Not only is Sherry Moon Zombie going to play Lily Munster, but the owner of the strip club will play Grandpa Munster, and the bouncer at the strip club Club will play Herman Munster. Just saying that makes me want to cry.
Take out the trash, Howard.
Take out the trash, Howard.
Enjoy the fucking herpes, old man.
The bouncer / Herman also played the caveman from those Geico commercials, and I am not joking when I say the reason this guy was casted in Halloween 2 and every Rob Zombie film since is because Rob Zombie was a fan of the Geico caveman commercials. I wonder when we're gonna see Flo in a Rob Zombie film.
What the fuck you doing, man?
Anywho, much like a caveman, Michael stomped this guy head real hard. God, what's with these wimpy stomps? You gotta give him one hard stomp if you want to do the job right. While Michael's mom reminisces about the pole where it all started, Michael gives her old employer and his possible real dad a visit.
Jesus Christ!
Killing this man through the power of shaky cam. Who needs to plan a scene's shots out when you can just shake the camera and not see anything anyway? Speaking of not seeing anything, you don't see this woman's clothing at all. Getting her head smashed into a mirror over and over and over. Anyway, it's time to talk about Halloween 2's weird-ass ending. Laurie decides to drown her sorrows by taking a Halloween night out on the town with her 2 new friends, Harley and Maya, who definitely weren't just introduced to add 2 extra kills to the movie. They're totally fleshed out characters.
I want to party. Well, you know me, I'm totally in. Come on, she wants to party.
The 3 girls arrive at a pretty huge alternative Halloween party for a small rural town like Haddonfield, and the ladies are dressed like Rocky Horror Picture Show characters, which just feels like a visual gag you'd see in a sitcom.
I don't know about you, but that breeze I'm feeling is pretty outrageous.
Here's where the writing really doesn't make any sense. Laurie's friend, Dr. Frankenfurter, is about to fuck this very handsome devil when the guy decides he needs to take a leak, and Michael emerges to stab him. Oh no, and then he awkwardly strangles Harley. The whole killing feels like an afterthought rehash of Linda's death from the remake. But it makes no sense because after Michael kills Harley, he goes to the Brackett house to kill a cop guarding it, popping out from behind a tree right next to the guy like this is a cartoon. But why was Michael at the party to begin with? Clearly he was following Laurie, but he was just there to briefly kill Laurie's friend and left the party to go to Laurie's house miles away. It's gotta be a pain in the ass, especially since he has to walk everywhere. Laurie has a vision that Michael grabs her at the party, but that's not real. It makes no sense for Michael to show up at that party to kill 2 random people he wasn't after unless he just happened upon Harley on the way to the Brackett house, having no idea that Laurie was there, coincidentally killing one of her new best friends. I don't know, it just makes no sense. Speaking of killing friends, though, Michael finally finishes the job killing Annie off camera, who barely had screen time in this movie anyway. Ow, ow, ow. She sounds like she stubbed a toe. Anyway, Laurie and, that other character arrive at the Brackett house, located in the middle of nowhere, and find everything just how it was left. No, wait. Annie's bloody body is new. That definitely wasn't there before.
I need you to call 911, please. I need you to call 911.
You know, after 2 movies, I'm gonna say it. Rob Zombie's Laurie Strode is a fucking idiot. Both times she finds her friend Annie undressed and bloody, her instinct is to call the cops and not leave the building with the assumption that the attacker is still inside it?
Go, call the police, go! I need you to call 911, please. I need you to call 911.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So it goes without saying that Maya is butchered. Oh no, not Maya. I knew so many things about her. She was such a memorable, well-written character, like all of Rob Zombie's female characters. I can't believe she's dead.
Maya, what's happening?
The Brackett house, Michael bursting through a door in pursuit, and Laurie's moonlit escape into the woods, it all just feels transparently like replicating the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This film was even shot 16mm like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Can't be a coincidence. Whatever though, Laurie is rescued by a passing motorist just like in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No wait, that's new. Michael hulks out on the car, flipping it over with the inhuman strength he was totally established having in these Rob Zombie films, and somehow the mere act of being flipped over causes the car to explode. Laurie dodged a bullet not getting a ride in that death trap. That thing was probably going to explode any second. Michael saved her life. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Bracket House, the sheriff is greeted by a familiar sight. His daughter's naked, bloody body. This time lifeless, though.
Oh, God. No! No!
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Alright, it's easy to make fun of Brad Dourif's acting here, but it's not really his fault. Across two 2-hour films, Sheriff Brackett only has 4 brief scenes together with his daughter Annie.
Oh, no, Annie!
Even an actor of Brad Dourif's caliber, how the fuck is he going to sell this level of loss when he has so little to work with? Rob Zombie is a lazy screenwriter. He takes cheap shortcuts to try to elicit emotional responses, like playing home video footage of Danielle Harris as a kid to remind us, that Annie was once a kid? Like literally everybody else on the planet? Zombie wanted Annie's death to be more than just another number on a kill count, to remind you that this was a human being with a life cut short. But she and her father were underwritten. Showing home movies and playing sad music is just emotionally manipulative. Nothing leading up to this point gave me a reason to care about Annie. I'm supposed to care about her now that sad music is playing? Fucking ridiculous. I care about Ted Hollister dying more than this bullshit.
Shit, Earl. It's Ted Hollister.
Michael abducts his sister Lori, taking her to a nearby crack house he used to play in as a kid. Outside, the police surround the shack. The film culminating in a hostage situation, I guess, with Loomis having an unlikely last-minute change of heart, insisting to be the negotiator. Hey, isn't that the guy who voices Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants? It is!
No sniper has a clean shot.
Inside the shack, though, even more preposterous things are happening. Lori sees Michael's inner child and the imaginary elf queen version of their mom.
I love you, Mommy.
I love you, Mommy.
But them having the same psychosis doesn't mean they're gonna both be seeing the same exact shit, have the same imaginary friend version of their mom saying things they both hear. Being crazy doesn't mean every crazy person magically has the same perception of reality, so I feel like with the remake, Rob Zombie wanted to try to place Michael strictly within reality as just a psycho, but in the sequel, Zombie flips it to Michael and Lori purely explicitly being supernatural in nature. Of course, there's another way to explain this impossibly convoluted ending I'll get to later, because Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 has 2 different endings, because of course it does. A theatrical ending and a director's cut ending.
Listen to me, Laurie. There's no one holding you down!
The theatrical cut sees Michael stab Loomis to death inside the shack, and this provides an opening for a sniper to pull a Texas school book depository on Michael. But it's the coincidental impalement that really kills the guy.
I love you, brother.
Lori bids farewell to the fallen brother she never knew and walks out wearing Michael's mask, eventually removing her sexy Michael Myers cosplay. In the director's cut, it's of course dumber and bleaker. Michael tackles Loomis through a wall, which should instantly kill the 66-year-old man, and Mike utters a very subtle phrase. Die! Whoa, he said die and killed that guy. Blowing my fucking mind. Speaking of blow, all the cops take turns blowing Hagrid's ass off with their shotguns, and the Shape's death is really sold by the bloodless squibs going off and Tyler Mane's getting shot dance. In the end, Lori emerges, dressed as Magenta from Rocky Horror Picture Show, I might add, intent on stabbing Loomis, but she's shot down without warning by the guy who plays Patrick on SpongeBob. He probably used to be an LA cop. A very tragic ending where Brackett loses both his daughter and the girl he swore to protect in one night. In both cuts, Lori is shown alone in that white hallway from The Matrix, but she already has visitors. Rob Zombie's wife and Sarah Jessica Parker. That's an abstract ending. Now, my interpretation of the film's ending and the story at large is that nearly all of it is a delusion of Laurie Strode, who is an unreliable narrator from the film's very first dream sequence. Michael Myers was actually killed at the end of the remake and didn't come back except in Laurie's own mind.
I know Michael Myers is dead. I shot him in the fucking head.
When Laurie finally read Loomis's book revealing her true lineage, her psyche was shattered and she finally became a murderer like her brother, creating in her head this imagined story of Michael returning to Haddonfield, guided by an angelic projection of their mother that frames the killings in a positive light. The reason why Michael suddenly appears and disappears from the party Laurie's at is because it was Laurie killing her friend Harley. Laurie actually killed Annie before going to the party and imagined in her head that Michael did it while she was away. Same with the murder of Maya later. Laurie convinced herself that Michael carried her into the shack. Laurie was wearing Michael's mask the whole time, hoping to draw Loomis to her so she could get a final revenge against the man Laurie and Michael perceived as destroying their family. Everything that happened in the film is how Laurie chose to see things in her dying moments. It's like the dream she has at the start of the film, but this time her sleep is permanent. Yeah, I know, I pretty much taxi drivered the ending of Halloween 2, but hey, it was the only way I could get some kind of enjoyment out of this film. The other interpretation I have of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is that it's a bad movie with an incoherent, lazy script. The film has artistic merits. It tries to be its own thing that just happens to be titled Halloween 2, but even taken on its own, I think it fucking sucks. As a Halloween movie, it's easily my least favorite. Yes, I dislike it more than Halloween 5, Curse of Michael Myers, and Resurrection, because on some level I can get some form of enjoyment out of these sequels. I can't say the same about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 or even the remake. The first time I watched his Halloween 2, I rented it from Redbox in 2010. I couldn't get through the coffee shop scene without turning the film off in disgust. I didn't finish the movie until years later. Now, I dislike this film, but these are just opinions. Something I have to admit about Rob Zombie is his movies are truly love them or hate them. A lot of people hate his Halloween 2, but I've seen some say that this is a misunderstood masterpiece of pure genius. It says something about this film that there can be such different opinions on it, and they're all valid in the end. If you love this movie, more power to you, but as for me, I give Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 a new Loomis out of old Loomis.
Are you a clam digger or something? And I don't mean that in the lesbian sense.
Well, October is behind us, but I'll have some holiday content in the future for you guys. Our secondary channel, The Gulag, will also be returning with more reviews of the Addams Family films. Link in the description to subscribe to the channel. Also, I'll be hosting a double feature watch party live stream of both Thanksgiving movies private to supporters of the movie night and above tiers on my Patreon this Thanksgiving weekend. Join my Patreon at patreon.com/drwolfula today to support the channel and get the invite when it goes live. Link also in the description. One final word, subscribe to my fan Lo-Fi Sci-Fi today to help them reach 500 subscribers. He has all kinds of VHS tapes archived on his channel. Check them out! This video is made possible through the pledges of my Patreon supporters, and I'd like to give a very special thanks to the kind folks pledged to my shoutouts tier. All of the support on Patreon means a lot to me, and it helps my dark influence continue to grow. If you like this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more vids. Be sure to also keep in touch by following me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dr. Wolfula. While I still have your attention, consider pledging to my Patreon to support the channel and get bonus content like previews, VIP Discord server access, private movie night streams, and credits in videos. Consider pledging at patreon.com/drwolfula. Also, check out official Dr. Wolfula t-shirts and other merch on tpublic.com/user/drwolfula. Thanks for watching. See you all next time. Dr. Wolfula signing out.